Hey guys, welcome back. This is lesson 8 of Java Video Tutorials, Java Video Toots, however you want to call it. Um, this lesson is on arrays. Arrays are very cool and very useful. Dr. Java, let's go. So I'm just going to start out here in the interactions pane, and we're just going to do some cool array stuff. So first of all, what is an array? An array is just a collection or a group um, of a certain data type or variables of a certain data type. And the reason we use arrays is because everything in this data type or everything in this array might be related in some way. So let's pretend I have just played the lottery. The Texas lottery has something like 6 numbers plus a bonus ball or something. So let's just say there's 7 numbers, and I'm going to create an integer array, and I'm going to call it lottery numbers. So it starts out with int, and then our little flag to make it an array is going to be these little brackets here. And I need to give it a name, so it says int array, and I'm going to call it lottery numbers equals, and there's 2 different ways to initialize an array, but since I have already created my lottery numbers, I'm just going to type them in here. So I put down a 3 and a 5, or a 6 actually, and a 27, and there's always one that's like right next to it, so it's 28, and we need a couple more, so let's say did 32 and 41 and and 50. So there's my lottery numbers, and they're enclosed in this little curly brace thing. So put a semicolon on the end, and we have just defined lottery numbers. So let's go ahead and just type in system.out.println lottery numbers and see what happens. Does this look anything like our lottery numbers? Not really. I just see this 41 here, and it might look like it corresponds to that 41, but I assure you that's just a coincidence. So, what happened here? Well, let's talk about integer arrays, or actually all arrays are not really primitive data types, they're object types. So this lottery numbers, just like string is an object. So we have to do something special to get out individual elements or all of the elements of this array. So let's say lottery numbers, and let's say we want to get the 5th element out of this array. Well, since arrays start at a 0 index, this is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we want the 5th element, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can say the 4th index, and it will give me back 32. And of course I can give it any index I want, and it will give me back the proper number. But what happens if I specify an index that doesn't exist, like 7? Let's go back and hit 7. What's going to happen? I'm going to get this array index out of bounds exception. AIOOBE. Very, very bad thing to happen in your program. This is called an unchecked exception, or a checked exception. It's called a checked exception because this exception, you should be able to prevent this in your code. No matter what happens, you should never be getting this exception, because you should always have a way to make sure you're not passing a bad value to an array. So I only get back good stuff, i.e. no exception, when I put in the array, when I put in a proper index. So let's do a system.exit, and that basically resets my interactions here. So let's define the same array a different way. Let's go int array lottery, I'm just going to call it lottery this time, equals, and this is the second way you can define an integer array. Say new int, and inside of this bracket I want to put the number of elements that I'm going to have in my integer array. So let's say I want 7 numbers for my lottery ticket, and now lottery has been initialized, but the problem is we haven't gone through and told it what each element in the array is going to be. So the way we do that is by adding individual statements like this, and you can just keep going up one by one. This is getting very tedious, so you're probably not ever going to populate an array one by one like this. And you'll learn how to do that through loops in the next lesson. So if I just keep going through, and not 15 but 2, and then this can be 15, I can keep going through and defining all these values. So if I were to say lottery 3 and just print that out without even defining it, you'll see that it's 0. So it initialized every element as 0. But if I go back and say 0, lottery of 0 is going to be 3, because we have assigned the 0th index to the value 3. So inside the brackets you can really do lots of stuff. So let's go and say like 6 equals 521, and inside of these brackets here you can really put anything you want. If I wanted to, I could put like another lottery 0. So what's going to happen is it's going to run this here, it's going to get the value of this, which is 3, and then it's going to get the 3rd index value of lottery, or since we haven't really defined that, let's do lottery 1, which is 6. So this should print out 521 for me, and you see there it does. So very cool. We have arrays, and then the only other thing is going to be you can have arrays of any type that you want. There is a default value for your primitive arrays, so that's going to be your integer, your character, your double value, your Boolean value, all those. They all have a default value. So if I were to create a Boolean array, not capital, and if I were to give it 4 elements, then I say b of 0, the default value for Boolean is false. Well, it turns out the default value for a character is going to be, it's going to look like this. It's going to be that little weird square thing that doesn't really mean anything. And then the default value for double is, of course, 0.0. So that's about it. If I have an object array, which is perfectly fine, like a string array, I can call it str array, new string, and then I say there's 5 elements. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the default value is? Is it going to be an empty string? So let's call string array of 0, and you'll see that it's null, so it hasn't been initialized, and the only way I can initialize those string array elements is by setting them equal to some other string. And so I can, of course, show you that there. Now it's some other string, and these are arrays. They're pretty cool, and you'll learn how to loop through them in the next lesson. So see you guys later, and goodbye.